with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. It is my pleasure to introduce best-selling author and Lincoln biographer Ronald C. White, Jr., and Lincoln's greatest speech.
How many of you have been to the Lincoln Memorial? Depending upon where you live or go to school, I suspect quite a few of you have, and others I hope will be able to do so in the future. Would you come with me to the Lincoln Memorial? If you do, the Park Service visitors will tell us it's the second most visited place in Washington, second only to the Vietnam Memorial. As you walk up the steps, what you will see first is the tall Daniel Chester French statue of Lincoln, 29 feet high. As you walk inside what I call that templed space, if you turn to the left, carved on one panel is the Gettysburg Address. If you turn to the right, carved on 3 panels in Indiana limestone, is the second inaugural address. Today we're going to take an adventure of understanding. I want to help us understand Abraham Lincoln, and through Lincoln's words, help us understand the Civil War.
I would imagine, if asked, that most Americans would say that the Gettysburg Address was his greatest speech. You say this second inaugural is his best speech. Why is that?
Well, Richard Lincoln said it was his greatest speech. The day that he wrote it, he received a congratulatory letter from a New York Republican politician, and Lincoln replied, "This is my best effort." I'm not wanting to derogate the Gettysburg Address. It's marvelous. I think it's much more all-encompassing. It's spoken towards the end of the war, and Lincoln, who is growing as a speaker, thought it was his best speech.
And do you think that people in the South could appreciate what he was saying?
They were no longer listening. They were viewing him through a caricature. He was the black Republican. There were actually only 5 newspapers still publishing in the South, but the Petersburg Gazette editor, obviously struggling over the meaning of the address, wrote in an editorial, "What are we to make of this peacemaker? He seems to be taking his message from the Bible. Well, I guess we should say, let us judge not, that we be not judged."